WJG Sports. We journal great.
What's up, everybody? Wherever you may be watching, this is the Just Like Brothers podcast, episode 62. My name is Leica BB here in Greenville. Along with me, Kai Jones, the incomparable Kai Jones in Goldsboro. And our special guest for today is Washington head men's basketball coach, David Allawalt. Coach Allawalt, thank you so much for joining us, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, guys. I really appreciate it.
Well, we'll get right into your background. Just to start, how did you get started in the coaching game and just in basketball in general?
Well, I guess it started in high school. I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland. Graduated from a school called Andover High School. That's where started playing basketball. Played 3 years of varsity basketball. 5'11", so I was a point guard, guys. But that's really where I gained my passion for the game itself. Coaching background, coached at a high school in Annapolis, 4A program, real successful program. A couple state championships there as an assistant. Learned the game of basketball really from two guys. My high school basketball coach, his name was Dick Hart. I had over 500 career wins in high school. And then John Brady, who is the all-time winningest coach in the state of Maryland behind Morgan Wooten.
Great Morgan Wooten.
Over 750 wins. So combined 1,200 wins from two coaches that I learned the game of basketball from. I like to say that's a pretty good resume for myself. Moved to Ocracoke probably 12, 13 years ago. Wasn't going to get back into the game of coaching, but I knew if I walked back in the gym and I would be asked. And just for the simple fact that, my grandmother lived on Ocracoke for 70 years. My mom was born and raised there. So, that tight-knit community knew my background and everything that I did prior to moving to the island. So once I walked in the gym and sat down and started watching some high school basketball games, I just decided, you know what, it's time to get my name back in the ring and then started coaching. And, a little rocky in the beginning, had to break things down, build things up, started with the youth programs and then the middle school basketball and then in the high school level. And, we had a good little run before I left. I think we were like 5 or 6 years in a row. We went to the state playoffs, had some pretty solid players that came through. And, opportunity presented itself to come over to Washington to coach ball over here. And I thought it was time to make that move. And here we are, So, and last year was, the first year, had some challenges, but I had a really good time with it. Surrounded myself with a bunch of really good kids. Administration is top notch. Community's top notch. And so far, so good.
Right. When you look at Washington, what was it about Washington that really appealed to you? Because Washington hadn't been successful in quite a while.
All right. Well, I guess there's a couple things that made it really, really intriguing to me. The first part is in order to be successful somewhere, I think you got to know the history. And, late 70s, early 80s, huge success rate for the Washington Pan Pack. I think everybody knows when you mention the Washington Pan Pack, if you're a basketball enthusiast, you know what names you're going to mention first. And that happened to be that era. Dominique Wilkins, Alice Rogers, a couple of the players, they were Adidas first team All-Americans in high school and won a state championship. But you're right. It has been stagnant for quite some time. But there's been a lot of talent that's come through here. And unfortunately, there hasn't been enough seniority or coaches that have been here long enough to set a program in place to where it can make a real strong, viable difference. I saw that. I love a challenge. I'm a very competitive person. And, I know the community supports it and I know the players want it. So, I thought, hey, if I can come in here, throw some structure, if I can come in here and get everyone on board and believing in something, then we got a chance to have a real nice program here. First year was a special year. It exceeded expectations by all means. And I've said this before, we're not owed anything. We have no room to be compared to some of these programs that have been successful year in and year out. But we're using this as a staple, and we're going to continue to build on it. And hopefully it's the signs of things in the future.
Right. How important do you think to your season was, being able to have a guy like Rashad Smith, actually transfer over into Washington?
Oh, I mean, it's a blessing in disguise, really. I mean, anytime you have an opportunity to get someone who has 1,900 career points and 700 career assists and add them to your program and a point guard on top of that, someone who has to control the tempo and dictate what happens on and off the floor. I mean, it's a win-win situation. He brought a lot of things over to us. He played at transferred from Northside Pinetown, and he went to the state playoffs every single year. So he had a winning mentality that he brought over, and the athleticism and the talent was already here. Just to get the kids to believe in themselves and have a vision was super important, and he was very instrumental in that. Very, very instrumental. I go on record and say that his leadership not only stemmed on the court itself, but in the locker room and such, and that's just as important, if not more, when it comes to rebuilding culture at a program. So he was great.
Right, and we had Perry Owens early on this show. I think probably months and months ago, but he talked about how important it was for him and the entire Washington coaching staffs to put Washington to be in a position to be a force at every single sport. How important has his influence and the football team's influence impacted the program as well in your first year?
I mean, I think it was fantastic, and for a couple of different reasons. One, the student athletes that play football are going to learn discipline and structure. So that part of their game carrying over to the basketball court is already in place, which simply in terms means that they're very coachable. And that's a big help. And it was a big help to me because I was coming into a situation where I didn't really, have a relationship built with any of these student athletes yet. So the football was really, really important for my success in my first season. As far as Coach Owens making a comment about making us a force in all the sports, we're probably just a couple sports away from that because I believe, and I don't know what the number is, but I think Washington High School, at least within our conference, gets the Wells Fargo Cup quite often. So we do have a lot of sports, right? So we do have a lot of sports that are already successful. And I think, with the football program and now the basketball program having some success here in the last year, I think that's, going to help us moving forward to be even more of a well-rounded high school athletic program.
Absolutely. Just from what I remember, I know this last year, 2019 school year, I forgot what the actual number was, but I feel like at least 8 or 9 teams were either in the hunt or winning a conference title. But I know this past season, all I know, if I remember, boys soccer won. Obviously, you guys were second. I think football shared. Just they're actually a couple inches away from having it outright. But I think really Washington's program has kind of started to go like this in the upward direction, and it is really in all sports.
I agree with you, and I think we sit here and we talk. We're right in the middle, hopefully on a down spiral of the COVID-19. But you like to think if that wouldn't happen, that our athletic program in the spring would have had some success too. Our baseball team is usually really young and rebuilding, but usually has really good success. Softball is perennial. So, yeah. I mean, I feel like that there would have been a couple more sports that probably could have cashed in conference championships.
Track and field as well. I know last year the girls won and the boys I think were either second or third. And girls soccer would have run away with the conference again because they're that good. So really, the spring sports specifically, that's probably what hurt a lot of programs because there are teams like Washington that have 3 or 4 spring sports programs that can contend for or even just win a conference title. So that's kind of what the impact the pandemic's kind of had.
Yeah, it definitely has. But we've all done a really nice job of adapting and doing the things that need to be done with the proper measures from a high school level to make sure we practice safety first. And it was the right call to make. It was. But, yeah, I agree with you guys and wholeheartedly that, and once again, it's probably like an exclamation on the talent level that is in Beaufort County and surrounding Washington High School to allow our school to once again be competitive in the sports that we haven't had too much success with in the past, but also more importantly to maintain our competitive edge in the sports that we have had success in. So,
right. And when you look at it, today is June 15th. You technically could be able to practice today if your county is allowing it. How important do you think it is that teams can get to this point where you can practice? And then also, do you think that doesn't make an impact when you look at it because the restrictions are they're very tight?
I think both go hand in hand a little bit, to be honest with you, just for the simple fact that all the athletes haven't been doing structured workouts like they're accustomed to, and a lot of them are doing things on their own, and that's good. But to get back to the team concept and we'll use skills and conditioning as an example because that's what we're allowed to do right now. Well, it kind of works out because, especially with football, if you jump right back into this thing, you're probably going to get a lot of kids pull up with certain injuries that probably could have been avoided if regular workouts were taking place. So I kind of like that easier way back in with the phase with the kids getting their bodies back accustomed and prepared for their upcoming sports season, especially the fall sports. And there's a couple rules that are in place, and I don't know if you guys know them, but I'll throw a couple out right now. And look, I'll use basketball as an example and throw in a couple of the football ones too to show you how it differentiates. But I know at Washington High School we have forms. The North Carolina High School Athletic Association has issued a COVID-19 form that each student and parent has to sign in order to even participate in any type of off-season workouts at all, especially during this phase. They also have a guideline checklist that we have to fill out on a daily basis that lists all the players that are involved in the workouts. If it's basketball, you can have, including coaches, up to 10 people at one time indoors. Football, I believe the number is 25, including coaches. So you have to take a daily log on those athletes that participate. That way, if something does happen and goes down, now the school and the county has something to cross-reference to make sure that they reach out to all those students that were involved in those workouts with that specific athlete to raise awareness. So from basketball, each player has their own basketball, no coach interaction, no passing. They shoot, they retrieve their own shot. You have to practice the social distancing, the sanitation. I think, that's quite obvious of how that has to go down. And so there's some changes and adaptations to make. But as far as the skills and conditioning part goes, I think this phase is perfect for easing these kids back into to the athletics. I think it will avoid a lot of injuries early.
Right. I mean, there were some people who were saying that maybe this isn't fair for all counties. When you look at it, some counties have said, we're going to lay off activity until July 6th versus some who are allowing it, like Beaufort County. Do you think this was the right approach by the state to let every county handle it, or should it have been more uniform?
Well, the political thing to say is that it probably should have been more uniformed. That way you avoid the controversy somewhere down the line to where certain individuals or coaches or administration or athletic directors or even schools in general would say, well, such and such had more time to prepare their kids for the upcoming season. But from another standpoint, it's, for me personally, I know this pandemic is a serious issue, but eventually you have to try to get back to some sort of normalcy. And when I say normalcy, I don't mean the way that it was before. I mean the new norm. And you have to be able to try to start adapting certain things. And I think that I really think a main component of this, guys, is that, and we'll use this as an example. And everybody knows that football is a huge financial component of the success of high schools. If football was a spring sport, for example, I don't know if you would see the June 15th number out there. But football is a sport that you need so much more time to prepare your body for, and it's such a huge financial part of some schools. You don't have it. You don't have other sports, and I think to make that call kind of early is allowing these schools to prepare for what is hopeful to be a football season, so everyone can financially be secure for all the other sports moving through.
Right. Of course, it's also exciting time for Washington as well, as you guys will be hosting the 252 versus the 919 Winter Classic. I made sure I put the 252 first because Bruton made sure that he got on me when I said the 252. So, how did that come about, and how excited are you guys right now?
Oh, man. Look, this is really, really cool. Being on Overcoat, still a part of the 252, that's where me and Anthony originally met each other. And we've known each other for quite some time, and we've always stayed active with each other talking about basketball. And, I don't know if it was a year, 2 years ago, but him and I have always been throwing back and forth, the friendly debate of who's got better basketball teams and or players, the 252 or the 919. So when I made that transition from Ocracoke over to Washington, we just started thinking deeper and deeper. And it's like, you know what? First of all, I can't believe that no one else has ever done this. Second of all, it's a vision that we had, and we're running with it, and we're really excited about the event. And like when we started throwing all the teams around that we were going to invite to the event or try to get to play an event, we didn't realize like it wasn't really a tough sell. I think that a lot of teams thought it was a really good idea and got really excited about the opportunity and for an inaugural event. I mean, we're really happy about the talent level that we have coming into Washington on January 9th.
Oh, yeah. I mean, anytime you can get, you got Word of God in the building, you got Rain Cut Your Day, Goldsboro's coming down as well. And, of course, you got you guys who are going to be very talented. You have Hertford County, one of the more forgotten two-way schools as far as how good they've been over the last 2 years. I believe you have, Henderson Collegiate, who's a state champion. You got Lewisburg, who Southern Durham.
Wilson Prep.
Yeah, Wilson Prep, of course.
Rose,
yeah.
South Central. So, yes, really, this field is incredibly
also
heritage, yes.
I mean, they might have single-handedly might have the hottest player in the state right now for recruiting, right? Heritage.
Him and DeMarco Dunn.
Yes. Lucas Taylor, he's been on fire.
Yeah, Lucas Taylor and DeMarco Dunn are just the proof that if you can shoot and you're long and you're athletic and you can play defense, then you have a spot on somebody's college roster.
And that sounds like you just named all the characteristics of a good basketball player.
Oh, exactly.
Yep, absolutely. I'm really excited about this lineup release for who's going to be playing who. Obviously, I'm sure if I'm correct that'll be coming soon. I believe I don't know when specifically, but I'm sure that's coming very soon.
We're gonna unveil it on July 4th, actually. So we're gonna do it on Independence Day. So
I thought y'all were gonna do it September 19th at 2:52.
There is no way that we're catering to your love for the 919. There is no way. So, with the event though, seriously, like going around with all the teams, I was looking at like the rosters, and we set this thing, like, obviously you want to set this thing up to where it's going to be really good teams in your building, but you also want to set up really good matchups so that the fan base is entertained. And I was looking through some things, and the conclusion that I came to is, and this is Brute's forte, throwing out the names, so I'm going to give him some props. But if you look at all these teams and you like guards, this is your event. I mean, you have Elijah Jamison from Lewisburg, you have T.J. Richardson from Southern Durham. Mm-hmm. I don't know what we consider Lucas Taylor, but he can handle the ball, I'm sure, if he needs to.
Guard, yeah.
Right? Guard.
You got Mike Best and Jaden Cooper. It could be one of the best guard tandems in the state of North Carolina. You got Marshall and Po'boy from Word of God, another unbelievable guard tandem. Let's see, Montez Green and Weller from J.H. Rose. They're going to be two guards. Yep. Right. Yep. Keandre Rogers from Hereford County. I mean, Waverly from Henderson. Yeah, right. Askew from, and then, and Terry Moore and Amarion Blunt from Washington. I mean, This thing is stacked with solid guard play. As well
you
as
got Davion Atkinson and DeMaj Oates.
Right.
Peanut from South Central.
Dalen Brown.
Brown.
Dalen Brown. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then you look at some of the bigs and stuff. Like Eric Wynn from Wilson, and then you got your neck of the woods, the Faison, I saying it right? Faison?
Yeah, Corey Faison.
He's top of everybody's list for his class. So I feel like there's crazy amounts of talents. And then when you break it down with the teams, 1A, here's your 1A teams, right? You got Wilson Prep, you got Henderson and Lewisburg. They are all three top viable 8 seeds in the 1A East in the state playoffs. And in the 2A, as you mentioned earlier, Kai, Hereford County's an underrated 2A program because they hardly ever get out of their area to stem into events like this. But they're probably going to be an early season favorite to win their conference. So that's going to give them a top 8 seed, as well as Goldsboro, who is probably going to be one of the top teams flat out in 2A basketball this year. And then us, Washington, if we can just get over the hurdle and maybe beat Kinston, fingers crossed, then, we can compete for a top 8 seed, right? And then you go with the 3A, 4A teams. You got Southern Durham. How far did they go last year? Fourth round?
Fourth round as a 10 seed.
Right. You got South Central, who they had some youth last year who wins 20 games if the unfortunate events didn't happen to them, and they got their team coming back with J.H. Rose and Heritage. So and the private schools, Wayne Country Day and Word of God. So you got, it's going to be a really good day of basketball, I think, and we're super excited. And I'll tell you what's going to be really cool about this event. And I know we talked a little off air about certain things that we were talking about, but due to the COVID-19. 6 games in one day with this venue, we're only going to charge $10 a ticket to watch this much basketball. So, we had some really good sponsors that have put forth a good amount of money. Bucket Reel's putting on the event, but we have a company called BTW Global that gave us a substantial amount of money to run this event. So, we really want to give back to the fans and the sports enthusiasts, not only in the Washington area, but in all the surrounding areas that want to come out and watch a good day of basketball. So $10, you know what? You can't beat that for 6 games at this level. And, we got some other stuff that we're doing with it too. We're having the hospitality room for all the coaches and the media.
Oh, so, there we go.
Right.
That's what I'm looking for.
We're going to have that's right. We're going to have a specific media room set up for interviewing the players and pictures and such. The referees are going to have their own hospitality room. We're going to have door prizes. We got the awards, guys. The awards for each team that wins is going to be awesome. Ordered them the other day. That's going to be a surprise to everybody. But you guys, that's going to be really, really neat. We're going to bring in a character to do the cartoon faces for the kids and stuff while they're at the event. And just things like that to try to make it a good family, wholesome, fun day of basketball. Fun, friendly debate who's better, 252 or 919. The matchups, we got them set. We're just going to announce them later. But, there's a lot of possibilities of teams that we can have play each other. I know Kai would lopside this thing so the 919 would sweep through this, but we're not going to let that happen, man.
I don't think the 919 is going to swoop through this. Especially depending on the matchups. I look at it. Word of God is probably the one that I think whoever has to play them, that's going to be tough for anyone in 252. Especially because you got to look at it. They got some 252 blood in them. So.
Oh yeah.
Of course, yeah, and 2-5 and 9-0 too.
So does Wayne Country Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Country Day as well. Mike Best. Yeah, Mike Best.
Right.
Yeah, Vontae.
Right,
yeah, no. Wayne Country Day will be tough as well, but, I look at Wilson Prep, man. They're one of the deepest teams in the state as far as, especially for a 1A program. Henderson Collegiate, they're super deep as a program.
Yes. Yeah.
Look at you guys. You guys have so much coming back. I think if I remember correctly, the Rashad and Cash were really the only two that you really lost. Hertford County,
Justin Powell.
they made it to the fourth round. Way too early. 2 years ago. So there's a lot of deep pedigree in the 252, and just with the style of 252 and how hard 252 fights for everything when it comes to basketball, I definitely think that it's going to be a very competitive event. And I could easily see it being a split or either one side wins 4-2.
We thought about that, and we've been going back and forth on, after we got this whole thing set, we were like, man, why did we make it 6 games? At least if we would have added a game or something, we could have had a tiebreaker.
Should have made it 5.
But no way, man. We're bringing as much basketball as we can to this thing. That's the whole point. But, in looking at the teams too, guys, it's like, think about like the internal scouting that could go on that day with like the 1A, like Wilson wants to watch Henderson wants to watch Wilson, Lewisburg wants to watch both of those schools. Then you got Goldsboro and Hereford and Washington. I mean, you got a good idea to check things out. And then the event's on a Saturday. So what about the teams that aren't playing in the event that are going to be contenders for an Eastern title that we're going to fill the gym to check out? Watching games on film is way different than watching it live. It looks way slower on a film than it does in front of your 2 eyes. So, I mean, there's a lot of teams that can do some internal scouting here, which makes this thing really, really neat.
Well, I think that you'll have plenty of coaches coming in with, the hat and their shades on and, don't have the team gear on. Trying to pay.
We're going to do it. We're doing a heat sensor test. Heat sensor test to get through the door, man.
Right.
So, but no, look. So you say that. Speaking of coaching and stuff, we have gotten a really good outpour of like coaches that are committing to come to the event. Like, just last night, and I got a call from Brute, and like, I mean, we've got our first like formal reach out from a D1 coach that is going to come to the event. So I really like the fact that like this event is opening up opportunities for players to get recognized. And we make a joke about it, but it is kind of neat too that the 919 like schools are traveling down to the 252 location, which makes them as equally important to the success of this event because the teams that committed to playing this thing, it's a tribute to them. That's a really, really cool thing to do. When in all actuality, at the end of the day, you come for good basketball, and that's what they're doing. But they're also like, it's almost like instead of having a friendly debate, it's like bringing it together as one big family to help everybody get recognized for the hard work and things that these student athletes do to try to play at the next level. And that in itself makes me really, really happy.
Right. And, I think that's one of the things that's been very important to high school basketball culture now is these events that, everyone's putting on together, Phenom, Hoop State, with the John Wall. So I think it's important that the events that are being put together because, it's hard to say that, you didn't have an opportunity to look at a kid and, you can go there, you can see 12 different teams full of kids, versus,
true.
Going to one game and you see two teams.
Well, yeah, and look, here's what's really cool about the event too. Like we can sit here and talk all day long about like, how this is put forth so all these players can get recognized, and that is the most important thing. But from a coach's standpoint, you get to develop a relationship with 11 other teams that show up in your gym, and when you can develop relationships with all the surrounding coaches in the area, you can start bringing things together as one. And when you start bringing things together as one, then everyone has the same objective at hand. And that's why these events are so special. And for me in particular, I knew a lot of coaches from my Ocracoke days just because I called everybody to try to get games for Ocracoke, But now that I'm over in Washington, it's nice to have surrounding coaches that are so close to develop relationships with because A, it's a small world, and 2, you need as much support as you can possibly get, especially at playoff time when you're trying to get film and such. So I think
Yeah.
all in all, from a relationship standpoint and from the players getting recognized, as well as as well as from you guys, the media coverage, you get to cover all this in one setting. You don't have to travel from gym to gym in one day. You can see a lot of different things going on, and I think one of the added dimensions to this that I think we're going to put in, and I don't know why it just popped in my mind, but I think we're going to try to attempt, and we got to get for the coaches that are on board with it. And I know this is a danger move, and you put your hands in whomever's going to edit this stuff. But I think we're going to mic all the coaches for the event if they're up for it. So it could be really interesting. So, but I mean, that's just an added dimension we're playing around with, and another added dimension too is I think I got a company to back me next year, and I mentioned this on Truthful Tuesdays with Charles Clark, that we're going to integrate this next year into a scholarship tournament too. So there's going to be a certain criteria, and each team is going to be able to nominate one person who meets or who qualifies for the scholarship, and they'll have to submit a resume, an essay, letters of recommendation. We'll interview them once they get to the event. We're going to judge their leadership and sportsmanship while they're on the floor. So, and at the end of the day, we're going to award, somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500 to one of these student athletes that they can use, towards college. And that, to me, it makes this thing really, really meaningful and really, really exciting. Just can't do it this year. We got so much going on. We just want to make sure this thing's successful. But as all things go in life, as you continue to do them, you want to make them better as they were before. And that's one of the things that we're going to try to build on with this thing as we move forward. But, all in all, we got some really cool stuff, and we're excited. And I'm hoping that everybody, comes out and supports this thing. And we just want to have a really, really good, fun, competitive day of basketball.
You had me in hospitality room.
You didn't even ask me what was on the menu, man. I
don't even know. I'm good.
Nah, we're going to take care of you guys, man. You guys are going to have we're setting you up with your own media room too, and that's going to be really cool because you guys work hard, man, and you put so much passion and love into the game of basketball in this area. And I made a joke on talking to somebody else about, if you equated hourly what you make to do the things that you do, you probably wouldn't see it as being such an appeasing job. But you guys are in the same boat. I mean, you guys cover and travel and go so many different places to get these kids recognized and for our programs to get recognized, that you guys deserve to have the accolades. And though I'm not going to be able to give it to you every day, on January 9th at Washington High School during the 252-919, you like that plug? I'm going to give all the accolades to you guys by allowing you guys to have your own set of standards. And that's important to me. It's, with Anthony throwing this event on, it's important to him because he is bucket real. So we're going to make sure that every single person that touches this event is really pleased and happy and can really and help us set forth a really reputable reputation moving forward.
Yes, sir.
Oh man, this is gonna be exciting. I get to eat and watch stuff. So man, that's top notch.
You and the Wizard are doing some big things. Well, the Wizard was Bruton because that was an episode.
The 252 Wizard Bruton.
Grand Wizard, sir.
He magically appears at every single middle school game. He
does.
Exactly who's who.
I had to pull some strings for him to actually pick this date of January 9th. I think he was planning on visiting the Vidant Medical Hospital, the new baby ward. He was trying to do some measurements and stuff for the up-and-coming class of 2035. But he, and you know what he would say? He'd say, "Come on, man.
It's all love. We love.
Hey, nobody loves that man more than me. He's a good dude.
Yes, he is. Absolutely. we just mess with him. He just. Plus, I know. Here's the thing. We mess with him. I know he's gonna come back with it too because he has some great photoshops of Kai Jones that I saved. I'm gonna be using them whenever I need to tweet something that's funny. I'm gonna use them. So.
Yeah, Bruton's Photoshop game was a lot stronger than mine.
Right.
He watched me, man. I gotta give it to him on that one. At least with the memes, he had to wash you a little bit there.
Yeah, it is.
It is. Yeah, it's pretty funny. But look, he's he is very instrumental in a lot of things that happen around here. So
Yes, he
I'm
is.
very happy that I'm associated with him for real, and I'm happy that we talk off the record. We talk him and I talk all the time, obviously, about this event. I can tell you that his passion is wide open on this thing, and he's very excited because the events that he typically puts on are the individual accolade stuff, like the Fab 40 and such. He works with Charles at the high school level. He, as you know, Kai, because he name dropped you as being an integral part of his success for the middle school showcase. But I mean, he does a lot for the kids, and for him to be able to put on a major event like this, I really do hope that this thing comes across and allows him and opens opportunity for him to do more events in the future because he deserves it. And that's real.
Yes, absolutely. Just a little bit of just to ask. I know you've kind of mentioned some of the kids you had on your team from this past year. Just recap a little bit of this past season and all the success you had, because I mean it was like the most wins in like at least a decade or something, and first playoff win or something.
Yep, it was. When I first came in, we didn't have any video coverage of any of the previous years, so I could study the competition or really get a chance to assess the talent level that I had for my first year. So I just got the scorebooks from the previous year, and I just started comprising a whole bunch of data. And some of the stuff that I came up with was eye dropping to me, to be honest. We won one fourth quarter, and that was against Kinston, and it was a running clock. We were already down 35 going into the fourth quarter, something like that. So I really didn't count that one fourth quarter. So that kind of screamed conditioning to me. We were a 49% free throw shooting team, going to the line over 400. Yeah, going up to the line over 400 times. So they were two things that I addressed immediately, and and along with some other stuff. But this year, like the culture, you could see the culture swaying. And look, you've been to a lot of our games, and you checked this out in the summertime when I first got here. Yeah. I think that anybody will test that as the season progressed, we became a lot more disciplined and we were structured, and you could tell that the kids were buying into the system that was being thrown out there to them. And I'm not saying my system's the best by all means, but you have to have some sort of system in order to have a successful basketball program. And these kids really have worked their tails off to prove that they have what it takes athletically and IQ wise to be a good, sound, solid basketball team. And, in the beginning of the year, we put a meter up in the locker room, and, one of our assistant coaches, his name's Harvey, we called it the Harvey Hoedown. And if we immenced a certain amount of wins, we were going to give them a cookout. So that immediately, once again, a cookout, food, that is a motivation for all, right? So, that in itself right away lit the fire for us to work hard to be successful. And I think along the lines, like we started 4-0 before we went to Kinston, and it was the first time that Washington high school boys started 4-0 in maybe 20 years or something like that. So right away we got off to a real good start. We ended up with 18 wins on the season. We were 11-1. We're count the playoffs. We were 13-1 at home, so we held our ground appropriately. We got our first state win in decades. We hosted our first home state game in a long, long time. We beat D.H. Conley for the first time in 12 years. We beat Green Central for the first time in a decade. So we had a real good, solid breakout season with a lot of really good things to look back on to help pave the way for the future. Some of the goals going into the season from a coach's standpoint, and this is probably going to be the toughest task of them all. And look, I'm not going to give the obvious stuff. I think every single high school basketball coach in America, if you ask them what their goals are, it's going to be to make sure you don't lose your last game. That's you know what I mean? But from a realist standpoint, I think we have to beat Kinston. We have to. In order for us to, and I just stated we were 13-1 at home. In order for us to be successful in the state playoffs, we got to try to get the teams to come into our atmosphere and to try to play us on our home court for us to be successful. But the main goal for me, and I do a lot of research on the programs that we compete against. And the one thing that was eye dropping for me last year, and it was actually after the game was over when we played in the conference championship, is that I was baffled that Kinston has won the conference championship 16 years in a row. I just find that to be one of the greatest numbers around. And I would love nothing more. And I'm probably throwing like fuel on the fire right here, but that's okay, because it should be obvious that I would love to be the basketball program to stop that streak. And I think once we get that marquee win, that we probably will start trending even further in the right direction. I mean, you guys haven't seen our schedule yet, but I can throw some things out to you. I'll leave one off for obvious reasons. But before Christmas, we have Farmville Central twice. So that in itself is going to be an early test. I think we're their first home game, so I'm sure we're going to have a banner dropped on us that night. So, which, listen, I spoke to Coach Larry. I want that to happen for my kids. I want to see that. I want them to see what it's like to have something like that done for them. So, and then we got first conference game before Christmas. And then, DH Conley is a system. They're never easy to compete against. So we got Southwest Edgecombe. So we're playing in the Great Guys versus Cancer event. I have no idea who we're playing in that one yet. So we got some things that are going to help us determine how good we are early in the season. But at the end of the day, the way that the North Carolina High School Athletic Association does their seeding process, if you have to win the conference. And in order for us to win the conference, we have to take down not only a Eastern North Carolina or a North Carolina, but almost really a national perennial basketball powerhouse. And we're really excited for that opportunity, because in order to be the best, you have to beat the best. And we got a chance to do that before Christmas, right? So we're excited for it. And the schedule was made for us last year when I came in, but I got a chance to put my hands on it this year. And my reputation is one that I want to play the best teams that I possibly can, because in order to be battle tested and ready for the playoffs, you have to know exactly where you stand moving forward. And I'm really excited about a lot of the things that we got going on. And guys, look, here's the other one too. And I know that this one is it was missing last year, and I know you guys will understand, but we didn't play Northside Pinetown last year, and that's usually a huge gate maker for us, and it's an inter-county rivalry, and anything can happen in those type of games. So we got them back on the schedule this year, so that's going to be a really fun day at Hardwood. And then we got some other teams that we're going to be playing. So we're excited where we're at. Some good things have happened, but as a coach, you can't be content, and it's on to the next set of goals. And look, my guys set their goals. We get in the locker room as soon as the tryouts are over and we set our varsity squad up. We sit in the locker room and they have to come up with their own 10 goals and come up with their own mission statement to determine what they want to do as the season progresses. Just because at the end of the day, and I know you guys probably don't believe this, but coaches do get mad during practice sometimes. And when we do, by allowing your teammates to write their own mission statement and set their own goals, you immediately hold them accountable for that. And it kind of reels them back in and gets them refocused, because they're the ones that come up with that stuff. And that's part of the relationship building process that I like to have with my players. And it's worked in the past, and I'm hoping it continues to work moving forward.
I actually believe I don't think adding fuel to the fire for saying that you want to beat Kinston, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I would love to see. I want to see programs challenge Kinston, but obviously it will be tough to do, because of course Kinston's got number 3 guy. He's pretty good. You might have heard of him.
Isn't he called Prince? Isn't he called Prince Styles? Is that what?
Oh God!
Oh no!
I'm sorry.
No.
I
feel bad. I feel really bad.
You set that up, bro. You set that up, man. I ran with that sucker.
But here's the thing. Now I'm kind of scared when he said that. I'm not gonna lie to you, because I obviously we all love Dante first. We know that. But like when he said that, I was just sitting there like, I did.
You say Prince Styles 3 times, he appears in the mirror and see.
Yeah.
But still, seriously.
He gives me enough nightmares, Kai. I don't need him to appear in my mirror.
But seriously though, I mean, will it be hard to beat Kinston? Absolutely, but I love teams that want to take that challenge. I just can't wait for this year. Really, I want basketball season. I do.
I mean, really, when you look at it for Kinston, man, I think a lot of times too, it can be very psychological for teams just seeing that name.
Yeah.
Now,
Just seeing Kinston on the front. Yeah, exactly. Facts. Like I think. Oh, go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
I could not. That's so the Farmville name and the Kinston name, and I'm preaching it all the time. But look, we had a chance on Kinston last year. We lost by 3 at their place. We lost by 12 and 12 in the next 2 meaningful basketball games. We gained some good experience from it. We had Farmville down into the fourth quarter during the regular season. They got us in the States, but 3 D1 guards. What are you going to do? But you're right, Kai. It is the name on a uniform, and once if you can just get this thing down to a regular old game of basketball, which that's hard to do for kids, then it could be equal playing field for sure.
Which I think a lot of times when it comes to the name on the front of the jersey, or even when you go against these great names, those guys who have been built up, I think a lot of the times you'll really understand who your team is. You'll either figure out that they want to play those guys, or either they really they idolize these guys too much.
Right. And and I agree with you there too. Like, in Kinston it's a mecca, man. It gets the support from all the players that come through the system. They give back to their area, and they refuse to allow their city and their school to have a regression in their basketball. And that's a tribute to who they are and what they do. And look, I don't know what's going to happen if we do happen to knock them off this year, but I can tell you one thing. There's probably, like, you've seen the Joker in Batman, right? How he got froze with that smile. I'll probably have that smile for at least 48 hours and before I have to get back to business. But look, I would love to be that guy. That's for darn sure. I promise you. So,
like I said, this year, I think when I look at the atmosphere of like the programs that are going to be top contenders in 2A, obviously I still think Farmville is going to be right back close to state championship level contention again.
Yeah, I mean, because I've heard people try to write them off now that
Yeah, I was going to say, please do not. Please do so. They want fuel to the fire. I know that. They want to hear someone say they're going to lose. I know that. Sorry to cut you off, Kyle. But Kinston obviously will have Dontre Styles back, but after that, they're replacing their other 4 starters and rotation players and most of their second unit. But they do have guys that can play too. They have Dante Ellis and Jeremy Dixon, who played really good minutes for them throughout the year. So really, it's gonna be an interesting season. I really think if
there was a year for anyone to do it, it would have to be this year.
Yeah, if they were ever here. But you never know. They got people on JV ready to play too. So it's gonna be. I really feel like 2A is going to be another.
That's the problem when you talk about teams like Kinston and Farmville. They have guys already written.
Oh yes.
Oh my gosh. And then you have no idea who else is coming from what direction, man. I mean, I get it, but you're right, guys. Like the 2A East it could be a juggernaut. It could be because I mean we're not even talking, and I'm glad we're going on the 2A East because I think it's going to be the most competitive one.
It's been the last few years.
Yeah. No question.
But look, Hereford County, last year 3rd round, year before that 4th round. So we're going to call them battle tested because they are. You got Farmville and Kinston. That's self-explanatory. You say like everybody's writing Farmville off. I'll tell you what. Don't write off South Granville either because they got single-handedly one of the best players in the state of North Carolina. So that's going to be another juggernaut in the East. And then one of the best athletes in the state is out of Reedsville. So there's another team in the 2A East in Pass. You got, I mean, in Goldsboro, bud. I mean, Goldsboro is going to be a juggernaut. So
Goldsboro, I think they are very early stages of a special run. this year I think people are going to kind of see. I mean, last year 3rd round, but honestly, I could see them 4th round regionals type. Just with the middle school class they coming in, plus returning most of their leading contributors as well.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, Southwest Edgecombe, I know that they're supposed to be losing a lot, but I could see them still being very competitive.
Well, and that conference, that conference just got a little bit better too with Coach Keith leaving Wayne Country Day and taking the North Pitt job. So
right.
that conference in itself, like.
And you're very familiar with those teams because Washington was in that conference before a couple years back. So you guys will get to see some of those teams.
Yeah, and look, the realignment's getting ready to take place here in the next two years. So we very well could be back in that conference again with a couple shuffles here and there. So and look, I think it's fantastic. And the 2A is, I mean, it's. And if I'm forgetting any teams, if anybody that's watching, it's going to be tough in the 2A. By all means, I apologize, but
First Flight too. We'll start First Flight.
First Flight. Yeah.
I mean, there's just some really good athletes playing for some really good teams in the 2A. So if you happen to be the team in the East that gets to represent next year in the state championship of basketball, you are certainly going to be battle tested for sure.
Oh yeah, it's a war.
Yeah,
you got to go through so many. I mean,
you know it. Yes, sir.
I look at it. I thought anybody up to maybe about the 19th seed with Green Central could have made it to the 3rd round at least because of just how talented and how deep the 2A East was this year.
I knew Green Central wasn't going to make it to the 3rd round this year.
Yeah.
Well, he's saying that because they beat him twice.
Well, I played him in the first round.
Yeah, exactly.
You played him 3 times in the span of a week.
I know.
That's the thing about seeding that kind of I know.
I was scared to death every time.
Exactly. Well, you got to play a conference opponent round 1 or 2.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right, Kai. Like I looked at that too, and it was it. I mean, what happened? And I don't remember off the top of my head, but I mean, Currituck beat who Currituck beat in the first round, like a 6 seed. Moorhead. They beat Moorhead. They beat Moorhead in a 6 seed in the first round, and then Ledford upset. Yeah, and then Ledford bowed out in the 3rd round to Farmville Central. But
St. Paul's too. St. Paul's. I know the girls had a great run, and the boys did too. They played Kingston really tough.
Look, we didn't even talk about those teams. We didn't even talk about those teams in the East. Whiteville and St. Paul's. Throw those 2 teams in the mix too, and your top 8 seeds this year are going to be really dangerous. Really dangerous. So
absolutely.
And which makes for good ball.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, man. I think the 2A East is the toughest basketball conference. I mean, basketball division to make it out of.
Yeah.
I've never tweeted this out, but I've always thought about the fact of 3 of the top, you could arguably top 5 players in the state next year are 2A East guys.
Who's your top 5 2A teams preseason right now?
Oh yeah, that's what we're looking for.
Let's see, Kinston.
1.
Kinston, Farmville. Farmville's probably 1st. Kinston 2nd. Just because I'm around Goldsboro so much, 3rd. I'd say South Granville 4th, and probably you guys 5th. I probably would put you guys right in that top 5.
Huh.
As soon as we hang up, he's going to change his mind, isn't he?
Yes, exactly. That 5 is pretty good. I would say I would probably put South Granville through. Me personally, it's not just Bobby.
But they've earned that though. They've earned that.
Sure.
But just being at the South Granville Goldsboro game, a lot of the reason why that game was so lopsided, Goldsboro really just didn't travel well, didn't hit their shots that they normally make. And I do think a little bit of the wow factor was a little bit in there because South Granville's a tough place to play when you look at just how on top of people are on you. You know, I'm there in the camera just doing like this, trying to not to bump anybody because of just how packed in like sardines it is. Like it's very tough to play there. So I do think if Goldsboro can hang on and do what they're supposed to do in the regular season and get to a seed where they could have a home game throughout, because Goldsboro is a tough place to play. You know, Goldsboro, I think it's one of the best venues in the state as well because everybody it's stadium style, everyone on top of you, everyone screaming down. It's very loud. The echoes are there. It's a tough place to play. Just like Kinston can be very tough because you got some very passionate fans. Farmville's tough because they pack the gym out and they're all on top of you as well. So I think those four places, whoever gets the home game, I think should probably win this year.
It's important. Just because when the state playoffs start, you cram in 3 games in 1 week. And if you don't have to travel and you can sleep in, because if you got to travel a little bit, you play a game, you leave the next day, you stay overnight, you might have to travel to the next venue and not even coming back to your school before leaving for your next game, depending on where you have to play. So home court advantage, don't let it go like slip under the rug because it is super, super important to play in your own gym when it comes playoff time.
Like when I say Goldsboro too, when going to South Granville as well, when you look at it, that's an hour and a half drive. Plus, you just played First Flight on Thursday, who is going to demand that you be very disciplined and it's going to be a lot of pace. It's a lot on your legs. I mean, the jump shots are going to be a lot more flat.
Yeah, like it's like a lot. It's kind of up here when it comes to road games, but at the same time, you never know. I mean, this year's East Regional /State Coast State champion won a road game to get the regionals, so it can. I feel like the right teams could get it done on the road.
You know what I'm gonna say too.
It's not
Farmville and Kinston is kind of not even really a road game when those two play because they are literally so right there. They're all splitting the same crowd. Everyone is going back and forth with each other because. Everyone knows that it's the 252 is going to travel anyway.
That's
true.
Fair
point.
I went to that game. I went to that game last year, and you kind of like from a crowd standpoint. Obviously, it was at Kinston, so it was more Kinston based. But you'd have thought by the way that the teams performed, honestly, that Kinston was the road team because they shot very, very bad in their own gym during that game. I mean, they couldn't hit anything. So
the only 3 they made was the Isaac Parson buzzer beater, like that was a bank shot, like 30-footer or whatever. That was the only 3 they made in the entire game.
And then Samaji took that game over in the second half. So, he takes games over. He took a lot of games over. He took it over on us too. So, glad that guy's graduating.
Yeah. Hey, I'm sure you're not alone when you say that. I would like to actually in that top 5 2A East debate. I'd like to throw Hertford County in there somewhere.
Yeah,
that's a good call. That's a good call.
But I don't want to take anyone out because if I take Washington out, Outlaws gonna hang up right now.
No, listen. I'll pull the Michael Jordan Last Dance. I'll write it on a whiteboard board and I'll use it as an excuse to take it out on somebody.
No. Nah, but if the kids see this, they go the next time I see them, they're not gonna know they're gonna be like, who are you again?
Yeah. No, I usually I get T-shirts made and you know what I mean, with the bullseye with your head on in the middle of it and stuff like that. With the number 6 on the back.
I'd like one of those shirts.
Yeah, right. Number 6 in his program, but number 1. Just say we're number 1 in your heart, and it's all give it,
oh, man. But really, when you really can't go wrong if you pick 5 teams out of the 2As. It's not people are gonna be like, yeah, it's a good 5. But then they're like, obviously, like any 5 you pick, as long as it's like the one.
There's somebody that's gonna be left out.
Somebody is gonna be left. That's how good the East is, though. The 2As.
if we all sit here on record and pick a different 5, then one of it we can't be wrong, right?
Yeah,
we can't be wrong. We can't be wrong.
You see it. Alan Wall sees it. He sees the vision. Man,
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting year. I mean, all the classifications are going to have a really good, solid playoff. Come playoff time, the East is going to be well represented. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I'm with you too, Kai. Like, I look on paper, and Henderson's going to be the team to beat, just because in the last couple of years they've proven that they can get it done. But I'll tell you, Wilson Prep's right on their heels, bud.
Oh yeah,
I think.
Oh yeah.
So,
and having that
there's
big
other
man,
1A schools
Eric
too.
Wynn.
Nasir Black.
Eric Wynn, that's a different. Henderson doesn't have a guy that big.
Hey,
and then
don't
you have
sleep on North Edgecombe. They're going to be back. They're going to have
you're
a say
right.
in this. I believe so.
You're right, but you don't sleep on Granville Central either. So the 1A is going to be good too.
Yes.
Granville Central, Riverside.
Weldon South. I think Weldon's going to be pretty good this year, I believe. Southeast Halifax should be decent again.
Yep.
I mean, it's
good.
One of East is going to be good. Princeton's going to be good too.
I'm about to say Princeton will get on me if I don't mention them as well.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
how's going to get on if we don't say Princeton?
If you didn't, I was going to say, if you didn't mention Princeton and they dropped you from something, then you can always call me. I'll help you as much as I can, Kai. I really will. I really will.
From something.
Yeah.
From something. More on that later sometime.
Right.
We got something for you. I'm so excited for it, but we're not going to say nothing right now. But I think this is a good place to stop, because I think we've had laughs.
Yeah, because I'm starting to go brain dead. It almost happened.
It's all good, man. This Coach David Atwell, thank you so much for joining us, man. We appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate it, guys. Listen, you guys do a great job. Really, you do. I appreciate everything you do, like the areas that you cover and such, and so many people rely on what you guys do. I say, like, the latest and the greatest of local high school sports coverage. You guys just keep up the good work, and look forward to watching, listening, and seeing you guys at all these different venues and events. So seriously, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Go Pack.
Go Pack. Of course, it's at PanPack MBB on Twitter, and I know you have a personal one too, correct?
I do. At David Allawalk.
Gotcha. Of course, the Just Like Brothers podcast, as always. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Please subscribe. We want to get to 1,000 by the end of the month, hopefully. Of course, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google, all the podcasting platforms, and you know where to find myself and Kyle on social media. So this has been episode 62 of the Just Like Brothers podcast, and thank you very much for watching. See you next time.